Did you inherit $1 million from your grandparent, or are you about to become wealthy from someone else's hard work? If you say yes to these questions, this show is not for you. You, the hardworking, committed, and ambitious professional who have a 9-to-5 corporate job or a 12-hour shift worker keeping the assembly line running. Perhaps you run your gig as a freelancer, or maybe you run a small business. You are in the right place. Welcome to the Career Evangelist Podcast, where you get your weekly tips, ideas, strategies, and inspiration to find purpose in what you do so you can build a career you are passionate about and live a fulfilled life. Here is your host, Bola Alabi.
Okay, all right. Hello, everyone. I'm excited again today to bring another guest to you. We have Tom joining us all the way from Australia. And with Tom today, we are going to be discussing everything around resume, LinkedIn profile, recruitment processes, and everything that you need to know, especially if you are looking for a new job, if you are trying to change your role. So Tom is a guy for us today. He's going to be sharing his insight, his ideas, his knowledge with us. And I hope you guys will find this beneficial. So without keeping you guys waiting any further, I'm going to bring in my guest, Tom. Tom, how are you?
I'm very, very well. As Bola mentioned, I'm in Australia, Sydney, Australia, to be a little bit more precise. And I have been working with executives, managers, and professionals for about the last 25 years to help them advance their careers. And through building their resumes, their LinkedIn profiles, cover letters, and also helping them to prepare for interviews.
Awesome. I like that. So you said you help them to advance their career. I know that many of my listeners, they want to advance their careers. So let's start it this way. What are those things, in your opinion, that prevent people from moving forward, from growing in their career? What are those things that they are missing, and how can they bridge that gap?
Okay, I think one of the key, or that sort of comes to the question of, why do some people consistently get interviews and get job offers, and other people who are equally qualified, equally experienced, do not. Mm-hmm. And it all boils down to marketing. It's like any organization. Let's take Apple. I'm not promoting Apple, right? But they are a very, very successful company and have been for a long time. Obviously, like all companies, they've had their ups and downs, but in the scheme of things, they're very, very successful. Now, is it because they've got the best products? Now, unless you are a fan of Apple, and I know there are millions and millions of Apple fans out there, but if you were to look at their products objectively, their tablets, their phones, their laptops, et cetera, their watches and so forth, their products are not essentially all that superior, if at all, to the products produced by other companies. However, they're extremely successful, and all boils down to being able to tell their story and position themselves effectively from amongst the clutter. They stand out, and they found a way to stand out. And it's the same with people. If you stand out in some way, shape, or form, if you have a unique value proposition that you can communicate, if you have a story to tell that is somewhat different to other people's, then you will stand a much better chance of getting that invitation to interviews. And that's where a lot of people go wrong. It's not that they're not the best person for the job or that they're a great candidate. It's that they're not selling themselves. They're not telling their story in an effective way.
Okay. So I know, and please correct me if I'm wrong, my assumption here is that for a job candidate, in order to market yourself, you may need to start from your resume. And maybe there are some components, some specific things, maybe keyword, maybe accomplishment that people need to be aware of, that job candidates need to put on their resume. Do you want to touch on that? How can job candidates present themselves in the best light using their resume?
Yeah, look, here's what I've discovered over the last 20 or so years that, through conversations with executive search consultants, recruiters, hiring managers, and so forth, they want to see 5 or 6 things in your resume. And once you get a handle on these things, then you'll see that your strike rate, your hit rate is going to go up significantly. The first thing they want to see is your unique value proposition. What is it that, like I mentioned with Apple has a unique value proposition. Cadillac has a unique value proposition. You name it. Neiman Marcus has a unique value proposition. And once you are able to articulate your unique value proposition, then people become much more interested in knowing more about you. Right. So the question then becomes, what makes you different? What's interesting about you? What can you do that other people perhaps cannot do or cannot do as well as you can? Or how can you add value to the company? So at the beginning of the resume, it's really critical to address the question, what are you going to do for me? Okay. And many people don't do that. They sort of launch straight into, here are my skills, here's my expertise, and these are the jobs I've had, and this is what I've done. If you put in at the front of your resume 2 or 3 paragraphs which say, this is what I can do for you based on the following skills, and the rest of your an experience and expertise, and the rest of your resume is then designed to support your unique value proposition.
Awesome.
So that's the first thing, unique value proposition. The second thing they want to know is what are the areas of expertise or skills that you offer that are relevant to the position. And a lot of people, they tend to produce a generic list of skills. I'm really great at leadership and working in teams and coming up with ideas or solving problems and so forth. But what's more important is that you align your skills and expertise with the requirements of the position. So if the job that you're interested in wants someone who can, for example, solve very complex problems, right, then you need to tell them, I can solve really complex problems. And then the rest of your resume provides evidence that you have solved complex problems. So these things tie together. There's no point in putting in a skill or an area of expertise if you can't back it up.
That's right.
I'm a great team leader. I've seen someone who said, I'm a great team leader. Okay, so I asked the question, how many teams have you led? Well, you know what? My local sports team, I'm the captain.
Yeah.
Okay. What about work? Not so much. So you've got to always back up what you say about yourself with evidence through experience or achievements.
Okay.
Now, the next thing that they really want to understand, and this is where you go into each of your jobs that you've had, they want to understand the purpose of the job. So essentially, that's answering the question, why does this job exist? Mm-hmm. What is its contribution to the company or to the organization? And that gives the reader some context within which to read the rest of your resume. Then they want to know what your priorities are. What are the 3, 4, 5 things that are really important in fulfilling the requirements of this job? Okay. And then you talk about your achievements. Okay. What have you contributed? What difference have you made? What value have you added? What has been the impact of what you've done? Now, a lot of people say, yeah, but I'm in an administrative job, I'm in human resources, or I'm in an area, of the company where I cannot quantify my achievements in terms of sales or production costs or something like that. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to put numbers next to every achievement, but what you do have to do is clearly articulate the impact of what you do on the organization or the organization's business or its customers or its other stakeholders. So they want to know what you did. They want to know how you did it. So for example, if someone says, look, I reduced production costs by 25% in 18 months. People go, wow, that's fantastic. But how did you do that?
Right.
What was your approach? What was your strategy? And then they want to understand what were the problems or challenges associated with doing that. What did you have to change? And how did you get people to come along with you? Because, as you know, change is sometimes difficult and not everyone wants to go along with you. So if you manage to change a process or an approach within the business, then how did you convince people to willingly stay with you and go through the initial difficult period of transitioning to a new way of working, for example?
Right.
So what this does is it positions you as, number one, someone who can get things done under difficult circumstances, solve problems, and come up with ideas and not just follow the same process or methodology that everyone else does. I'll give you a quick example of that. I have a client who said, I did reduce costs by 25%. How did you do that? Oh, well, we offshored our production to a low-cost country. Well, that's not very creative. Everyone can do that.
Yeah.
You for example, if you're in the United States, production costs might be high because labor costs are high. So you might offshore or you might outsource to low-cost countries.
Right.
So that reduces your production costs. Fair enough. But that's not creative. What would be creative, and this is what some companies are doing, is they are retaining their production or manufacturing or processing in a high-cost country like the United States or Germany or Australia or the UK and still reducing costs. Now, that's when people start to take notice and say, wow, okay, that's something that not many people can do. I want to talk to you.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I completely agree with that. So, you've explained the role of resume and how it can help candidates position themselves. I want us to talk a little bit about cover letter. What role does cover letter play in the hiring process?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because there's some debate about whether cover letters have passed their use-by date. Do we really need them these days?
Yeah.
And my view on that is, why not? Because you are not going to miss out on an opportunity because you send a cover letter.
Right. Well,
but if you do send a cover letter, you could, in many cases, improve your chances simply because you have taken the time and made the effort.
Okay.
And that's always going to be a big tick, yeah?
No, that's right.
This person, they've bothered. They've taken the time. They made the effort to send me a cover letter. And the role of the cover letter is really to give the reader a quick summary of what they have to offer in relation to the requirements of this job. And also to give people an understanding of your motivation.
Right. No, that's
in other words, why do you want to apply for this job? How does it fit in with your career trajectory?
Yeah.
So you can articulate that in your cover letter. You can provide the reader with a quick summary of your experience relevant to that job. So a cover letter must always be tailored. Far too many people submit a generic cover letter, which could be applicable for just about anything. Right. Don't do that. right? Tailor your cover letter and then give some examples of achievements or contributions that you've made that are relevant to the position and that are sought by the company. And the other thing you do in your cover letter is articulate some personal attributes that are going to be relevant to the company and perhaps aligned with the culture of the organization that you're interested in. So cover letters can be very important. Whether or not they're required doesn't matter. Do it anyway.
Yeah.
It can't hurt, and it could give you an edge over other people that don't.
And that edge is very important in a competitive hiring scenario, in my opinion. So now let's talk about the role of LinkedIn in this job search landscape. I want to hear from you. What role does LinkedIn plays, and how can job seekers best utilize the platform to get their new role?
Yeah, I mean, LinkedIn is like your virtual billboard. You know, it's there. Unfortunately, with LinkedIn, what you cannot do is customize it for different roles. It's kind of static. You can't go changing your LinkedIn profile every week or for every job. So that's one of the, I guess, limitations of LinkedIn. So when you build your LinkedIn profile, you better be very clear about your career direction, what kind of opportunities you want. Now, LinkedIn has become much more influential over the last, say, 5, 10. Well, I think LinkedIn's been really in business since 2010 or thereabouts. It's become much more prominent. And the disadvantage of LinkedIn, it's a monopoly.
Yeah.
It's really the only platform of its type. Yes, there are other job boards, but LinkedIn has a much bigger, broader functionality than most job boards. So it really is, we're kind of a captive market for LinkedIn. So what that means is that every recruiter on the planet is using LinkedIn to source candidates.
That's correct.
So the first thing your LinkedIn profile should do is make sure that you are able to be found. It's about attracting attention. This is marketing 101. What's the first step in marketing? Once you've got your product, which is you and your experience, your expertise, how can I be found? How can I attract attention? And that comes through in your profile, your headline of your LinkedIn profile. And what that means in practical terms is that you should be using words and phrases directly underneath your name that are consistent with the search terms used by recruiters. So recruiters use LinkedIn in the same way as you and I might use Google to find the Japanese restaurant in our neighborhood.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
We use various search terms, sushi, sashimi, and sake, right? They might be your search terms. And in LinkedIn, for example, if you're a program manager, you would obviously use the word program manager in your headline. And if you're looking for a job as a program manager in the aviation industry, you would include aviation industry in your headline, so that when recruiters are looking for candidates, they will find you. So that's the first part of LinkedIn. And let me caution you here, though. A lot of people use what they consider to be very creative terms in their LinkedIn profile. Now, don't, because your objective is to be found, to attract attention. And so when people use words like creative disruptor and multi-skilled business professional and savvy, seasoned strategic leader and top-tier university educated finance professional, you're not going to be found. It may kind of look sexy, wow, look at that, creative disruptor. I want one of those. But unfortunately, the executive search consultant or the recruitment consultant is not going to find you. And so you'll miss out on opportunities for that reason. So use standard words, terms, and phrases that recruiters are likely to be using. So if you want a job as a digital marketer, put the words digital marketer in your headline. If you want to promote that you are a specialist in Facebook ads, put Facebook ad specialist.
Right.
Might be boring, right? Not as interesting, but if you want a job as a video producer, the words video producer must appear in your headline. So that's the first function of LinkedIn. Now, the second function of LinkedIn is to stimulate interest. So that's really the second part of marketing. You've been found, attracted attention. Now, why would I, as a recruiter, be interested in talking with you? And that's where your about section comes in. Now, your about section is about giving people an understanding of your unique value proposition, like the first part of your resume. This is where you communicate your business case, where you demonstrate why you are one of the few people that can help the organization to address the issues and challenges and problems they are facing.
Right.
And to capitalize on the opportunities that they might have in front of them. And that positions you in a unique way. Yeah. Now, my recommendation for everyone is adopt a very straightforward approach. Don't use too much jargon. For example, don't say that you're a highly motivated, results-oriented project manager with a proven track record, blah, 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 et cetera, because people will just go, I've read this 400 times in the last week.
Right.
Again, be straightforward, communicate the sorts of problems that you can solve, appeal to the pain points of the hiring manager. For example, if you know that companies in a particular industry are suffering from low margins due to low-cost imports from East Asia, from China, for example, and that's eroding their market share, forcing them to reduce their... If you have something to offer that can help them overcome that challenge, they want to talk to you.
That's right. Yeah.
And then you come to the experience section. Now, far too many people simply put in job title, company name, dates. It doesn't give a story. So what you've got to do in the experience section of your LinkedIn profile is support your value proposition through a brief conversation about your achievements and the value that you've added and the challenges you've overcome.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is with LinkedIn, the style and tone are different to your resume. In LinkedIn, you can adopt a more personal, more conversational style and tone than you would normally do in your resume. So it's more about telling your story than simply a series of bullet points.
Yeah.
So that would be another one of the differences. So remember, your LinkedIn profile is not your resume. I've seen too many people simply copy and paste their resume into their LinkedIn profile. That's a fatal error. It's never going to work. Does it take a bit of work and effort and time?
Yes.
Of course it does. But at the end of the day, you're the one who wants the job.
Right.
So put in the time, put in the effort. And once you've done that, it's kind of a set and forget.
Yeah.
It's like the old days we used to walk along the streets and you see all these posters on lampposts and walls. You just put them up there, set and forget, and wait for people to come to you.
Okay. No, that's good. Thank you very much for that detailed explanation. Now, I've seen a couple of posts about the role of AI, specifically ChatGPT, in terms of helping people do their resume. So what's your take on that, for people to use AI to write a resume?
Yeah, the thing about things like ChatGPT is that they've kind of landed on the scene and they've just blown up, in a matter of months. A lot of time when a new technology or a new tool comes out, it takes a few years to become prominent. But ChatGPT and other similar ones are just blowing up all over the place, and people are grabbing and saying, "Oh, I'm going to use this."
Yeah.
Don't. Number one, do not use ChatGPT to write your resume or your LinkedIn profile, simply because recruiters know that you've used ChatGPT to write your resume and your LinkedIn profile. The limitation of ChatGPT is that it cannot know anything about your achievements. It cannot know anything about the mandate of your role or the priorities of the role. It can give you general information about the typical experience and expertise and qualifications needed in a role, right? Because it's very good at scouring the internet and saying, if you want to be a project manager, for example, you're going to need this, and this in terms of experience, skills, and expertise. But it cannot write your resume.
Okay.
And if it does, what it will do, and I've tried this. I've actually fed ChatGPT some information about a person and said, write this person's resume, and it came back with just a whole series of disconnected buzzwords. And recruiters just don't like it. Okay. So what you can use ChatGPT for is to identify the skills, experience, and capabilities and qualifications required in the job.
Okay.
So that you make sure that your resume addresses
those skills,
those requirements in the job. So it can be very, very useful to that, because what it does, it looks everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. And it will find everything. And you can do the same thing yourself, but it will take you 14 hours.
Yeah.
Whereas ChatGPT will do it in less than a minute.
Okay.
So what I've done is, for example, I've interrogated ChatGPT and said, what are the expertise, skills, experience, qualifications required for a production manager in the automotive sector?
Wow.
And within less than a minute, it will come up with a very nice list, well organized, well structured, all with headings and subheadings of everything that a production manager needs to have to work in the automotive industry.
Okay, that's good.
And that can be very useful in making sure that your resume hits the mark and addresses each of the requirements of that kind of job. Okay. And what I recommend that you do after you've used ChatGPT, use a reality check on LinkedIn. So just key in production manager, automotive sector, to find some jobs and make sure that you have covered all bases.
Okay.
So use LinkedIn and ChatGPT together to make sure that you understand the requirements of the job, and then build your resume around the requirements of that job. Okay. Or that type of job.
Okay. No, that makes sense. Thank you for sharing that insight. We are coming to the end of this interview, but I want to also ask you, we've talked about resume, LinkedIn profile, cover letter. Now, let's say a job seeker got an opportunity for a job interview. What must this candidate do to nail the interview? How can the candidate position himself or herself to be the top choice for the employer?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because a lot of people over prepare for interviews.
Okay.
And what that means is that they come up with sort of packaged answers or canned answers, and like a politician. Their public relations advisor has said, when you get a question about this, you should respond this way. And then the politician is very careful to stay within the lines, right, to color within the lines. Now, the thing of an interview is that it ought to be more of a dialogue, a conversation, a two-way conversation. Yes. So don't over-prepare answers, because what happens when you do that is that you could be answering a question that wasn't really asked. Because, the person's asked me about this and I know about this and I've got to give them an answer. So I've prepared an answer, so I'm going to give them that because I spent 20 minutes preparing an answer. Don't worry too much about that. But what's more important than preparing specific answers is getting into the right mental state, getting into the right headspace. Because like anything, well, an interview is a performance. It's a one-off. It's like you're on stage. Your job is to sing the song or tell the story or to be the character in a play, whatever it is. It's a one-off performance. What that means, as any stage actor or stand-up comic will tell you, or any golfer or any tennis player will tell you, if you're not in the right state of mind up here, then your performance will be suboptimal.
All right.
So find a way, and there's many techniques. You can find many ways, either for free, or you can get a coach, or you can ask your friends to help you get into the right mental state. The second most important thing is, because once you're in the right mental state, you will do everything associated with that mental state.
Right.
So if you're confident and positive and energetic and all of those things, you will do things that are associated with positivity, energy, and all of those things. Yeah, you can't help it. It's just being a human. So once you're in the right mental state, then you've got to give the interviewer what they want. And I always recommend that when you are answering questions about your experience or achievements, use a framework like the STAR framework, which is many people know about this: situation, what was going on; task, what did you need to accomplish; action, what action did you take and why. So when you describe a strategy or an approach that you used, explain why you adopted that particular approach, because there are usually many ways to solve a problem or to capitalize on an opportunity. Right. And then the R is for result. What was achieved? Okay. What was the outcome? And that way you give people a very nice structure that they can make notes, because when people are interviewing you, they're going to take notes.
Right.
Either on a tablet or on a notepad or some way, or on a laptop, they're going to take notes. You want their notes to be nice and well organized, so that when they review all the candidates, the notes they took about you make sense, not just doodles on a page, not just a shopping list.
Yeah. No, that's good. Thank you for sharing that. Now, finally, to job seekers out there, are there some maybe advice or information that you'd like to share with them as we bring this to a close?
Well, I think be selective is an important one. I have a lot of people that have come to me and said, I've applied for 175 jobs and got 2 interviews. Now, that can be kind of deflating and discouraging and frustrating. And one particular person I've been working with who has applied for so many different types of jobs that they are confusing everyone, including themselves. And so I recommend focusing on fewer rather than more, and focusing on jobs where you tick all the boxes. Because if you're not ticking all the boxes, remember, you're competing with 100 other people, if not more. Right. And the second piece of advice is to leverage the heck out of your network. Yeah. If it doesn't matter who is in your network, because you don't know who they know.
Right.
Right. So if I know 100 people, and each of those people knows 100 people, there's 10,000 people potentially. I mean, you're not going to, you know what I mean? But you know, that's a pretty decent number to start with, 10,000. But even if it's only 1,000 at the end of it, even if everyone only knows 10 people, there's 1,000 people. And what you want to do is make sure that everyone in your network, whether you know them as a friend, a colleague, a boss, a former boss, a reporter, whoever, doesn't really matter. It could be your real estate agent. It could be, you know, your
anyone for that.
Investment broker. It could be your bank manager. It doesn't really matter. They know people, but you don't know who those people are. And they're the ones you want to get in connection with. So make sure that you tell everyone in your network what kind of opportunities you're looking for, why you are looking for those opportunities. So give them a sense of motivation, and also what kind of opportunities you are not interested in.
Okay.
So that people's time is not wasted and you don't have to be apologetic and say, thank you, but no thank you. You don't want to be in that position. So networking is incredibly important. Many people simply rely on job boards to apply for jobs. And networking can be much, much more powerful and less frustrating.
Absolutely. So thank you very much, Tom. We have come to the end of this interview. I appreciate your time. Maybe finally, how can my audience connect with you if they want to learn more, follow you, and be in your orbit?
Well, they can connect with me on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. Okay, cool.
Yeah, just Tom Hannemann. If you just Google Tom Hannemann LinkedIn, guess what? I'll come up.
Okay.
Connect with me on LinkedIn, and if you want to talk about anything, you can book a free, no obligation 30-minute consultation.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. I'm going to end it here.
You're very welcome, Bola. Very nice to talk with you today, and I hope your audience got some real value out of what we've discussed today.
Awesome. Thank you.